Hey Virgo, there's a name you've been trying to forget, and the energy around that person might be shifting in ways that could affect you, whether you're ready or not. What I'm sensing right now is unfinished business, a heart wound that healed on the surface but never fully closed underneath. Someone who left an imprint on you that time hasn't completely erased, no matter how much you've tried to move forward. And the truth you might need to hear right now isn't about whether they're coming back or what they're feeling. It's about what this entire experience has been trying to teach you and what needs to happen next for you to truly be free. If you've been stuck in a cycle of healing and reopening, of moving on and sliding back, of telling yourself you're over it while still checking for signs of them, this message might be exactly what you need to finally break through. Let me walk you through what I'm picking up on, because the honest truth about heartbreak is rarely what we want to hear, but it's always what we need. There's a strong possibility that this person showed you something about yourself you weren't ready to see. Maybe they revealed a pattern you keep repeating. Maybe they exposed a wound you didn't know you were carrying. Maybe they triggered something in you that goes way deeper than just this one relationship. And what I'm sensing is that you might have been so focused on what they did to you, on how they hurt you, on why they couldn't love you the way you deserved, that you haven't fully examined what this experience was actually trying to show you about your own patterns, beliefs, and relationship with love itself. This isn't about blaming yourself for someone else's choices. They broke your heart. They made decisions that hurt you. They're responsible for their actions. And nothing I say is meant to minimize that or make their behavior your fault. But here's the honest truth. Heartbreak is also a teacher. And the lesson often has less to do with the person who left and more to do with why you stayed, what you tolerated, what you ignored, what you hoped would change, and what you were willing to sacrifice of yourself to keep someone who wasn't meant to stay. If you know there's a lesson in this pain you haven't fully learned yet, now let me talk about what might actually be next. Because I sense you're at a crossroads with this situation. One path is continuing to carry this person with you, continuing to replay the memories, continuing to wonder what if, continuing to measure every new person against them, continuing to let what happened with them dictate how you show up in every situation that follows, continuing to give them power over your present and future even though they're not in your life anymore. That path is familiar. It might even feel safe in a twisted way because the pain, feels less scary than the unknown of truly letting go. But it's also a prison. It keeps you stuck in a story that already ended. It makes you unavailable for anything new because you're still emotionally invested in something old. The other path is radical release, not the kind where you pretend you don't care or force yourself to feel nothing, but the kind where you fully grieve what happened, extract every lesson it has to offer, and then consciously choose to put it down and walk away from it, where you stop waiting for closure from them and create your own closure, where you stop hoping they'll realize what they lost and start focusing on what you're going to build now that they're gone. That path is harder in the short term. It requires you to feel everything you've been avoiding, to admit painful truths, to take responsibility for your part in the dynamic, to face the fact that some questions will never be answered and some wounds will never be validated by the person who caused them. But it's also the only path that actually leads to freedom, to peace, to being genuinely available for healthy love when it shows up, to breaking the pattern instead of just repeating it with a different person. What I'm sensing is that you're being invited to choose the second path, that the universe or your higher self or whatever you want to call it is done watching you carry this weight. And what's next might depend entirely on which path you choose. Comment release if you're ready to finally put this down and walk away from it. Let me talk about what this person might actually be doing or feeling right now, because I know that's probably part of what you're wondering. There's a possibility they think about you sometimes, that they have moments of regret or curiosity about how you're doing, that they wonder if they made a mistake or if things could have been different. But here's the honest truth. It doesn't matter. Even if they're drowning in regret, even if they realize you were the best thing that ever happened to them, even if they want you back desperately, that doesn't automatically make reconnecting the right choice for you. Because people who genuinely change prove it through sustained different behavior over time, not through words when they're feeling lonely or nostalgic, not through reaching out when they need an ego boost or when their current situation isn't working out, not through half-hearted apologies that don't come with any real accountability or plan to do better. What I'm picking up on is that you might be holding on to hope that they'll come back transformed, that they'll finally see your worth and show up the way you always needed them to, that the story will get a redemptive ending where all your pain was worth it because it led to real love eventually. And while that's possible, it's not probable. And more importantly, waiting for that outcome is keeping you from building something real with someone who's actually available, actually healthy, actually capable of meeting you where you deserve to be met. The honest truth is that most people don't change that dramatically. Most people who break your heart once will break it again if you give them another chance, because the core issues that caused the break haven't been addressed. And even if they have changed, even if they've done genuine work, that doesn't erase what happened or guarantee that you'd be compatible now. So what's next might need to be about you releasing your attachment to any particular outcome with this person, about you deciding that whether they come back or stay gone, whether they regret it or never think about you again, whether they're doing great or struggling, none of that determines your worth or your future happiness. You get to be okay either way. You get to build a beautiful life either way. You get to find love again either way. Let me talk about the pattern this relationship might have revealed, because understanding this is crucial to what comes next. You might have a pattern of choosing people who are emotionally unavailable, who keep you at a distance, who give you just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to feel secure, who make you work for scraps of affection and validation. Or you might have a pattern of abandoning yourself in relationships, of ignoring red flags, of making excuses for behavior you know isn't okay, of giving more than you receive and telling yourself that's what love requires. Maybe you have a pattern of staying too long, of believing potential instead of reality, of thinking you can love someone into being who you need them to be, of confusing intensity for intimacy and chaos for chemistry. Or perhaps you have a pattern of choosing people who confirm your deepest fear about yourself, that you're not enough, that you're too much, that you're unlovable unless you perform perfectly, that you're only valuable when you're serving someone else's needs. What I'm sensing is that this heartbreak happened for you, not to you. That it's revealing a pattern you need to see clearly so you can finally break it. And what's next might depend on whether you're willing to do that internal work or whether you're going to repeat the same pattern with a different person. Drop A if you recognize you've been in some version of this dynamic before. Now, let me talk about healing, because what's next requires you to actually heal this wound, not just cover it up or numb it or pretend it doesn't exist. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It doesn't mean immediately trusting everyone or jumping into new relationships like nothing happened. Healing means you can think about this person without your chest tightening. You can see their name without your stomach dropping. You can hear a song that reminds you of them without spiraling into sadness or anger. Healing means you can wish them well, genuinely, not because you're spiritually bypassing your pain, but because you've processed it fully and you're no longer carrying resentment that poisons you more than it affects them. Healing means you can recognize what was beautiful about what you shared while also acknowledging what was unhealthy. You can hold both truths simultaneously without romanticizing the past or demonizing the person. Healing means you've extracted the lessons. You know what red flags to watch for now. You know what boundaries you need to set. You know what you will and won't tolerate. You know yourself better because of what you went through. And healing means you're available again, not desperately seeking someone to fill the void they left, but genuinely open to connection from a place of wholeness rather than woundedness. What I'm sensing is that you might be closer to this than you realize, that you've been doing the work even when it doesn't feel like it, that every day you choose yourself, every time you resist reaching out, every moment you sit with the pain instead of running from it, you're healing. But there might be one final release that needs to happen, one last cord that needs to be cut, one remaining attachment that needs to be acknowledged and consciously let go of. And what's next might be on the other side of that final release. Let me talk about what might be waiting for you once you truly release this person and this pattern. There's a possibility that real, healthy love is closer than you think. That someone who can actually meet you, who doesn't make you guess or wonder, who sees your worth immediately and treats you accordingly, they might already be in your orbit or about to enter it. But you won't fully see them or be available to them if you're still energetically entangled with someone who's gone, if you're still comparing everyone to the person who broke your heart, if you're still hoping that person will come back and prove you weren't wrong to believe in them. What I'm picking up on is that your next love story could be completely different from this one. Easier, healthier, more reciprocal, more stable, more aligned with who you actually are and what you actually need. But it requires you to stop romanticizing dysfunction, to stop confusing drama for passion, to stop believing that love is supposed to hurt this much or require this much effort to maintain. Real love doesn't break you. It doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't leave you in constant uncertainty about where you stand. It doesn't require you to abandon yourself to keep it. Real love is steady, it's clear, it's reciprocal, it feels good more often than it feels bad. It adds to your life instead of consuming it, and you might be about to discover what that actually feels like. But only if you release your grip on what wasn't that, no matter how much you wanted it to be. Comment whole if you're ready to stop seeking completion in another person. Now, let me address the question you might actually be asking underneath all of this. Will they come back? And should you take them back if they do? Here's the honest truth. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that question is keeping you stuck because it keeps you focused on them instead of on you. What's more important is if they came back tomorrow with everything you've been wanting to hear, would taking them back actually serve your highest good? Or would it just restart a cycle that needs to end? Because sometimes the kindest thing the universe can do is not give us what we think we want. Sometimes the greatest blessing is a door that stays closed because what's on the other side of it would ultimately hurt us more than losing it ever could. What I'm sensing is that if this person is meant to be in your life, they'll come back when both of you have genuinely changed, when the dynamic that broke you has been healed, when there's actual evidence of transformation, not just words. But more often, what's meant to be is the lesson, not the person. What's meant to stay is the growth, not the relationship. What's meant to last is who you become through the experience, not the connection that catalyzed it. So stop waiting for them to validate you by coming back. Stop measuring your worth by whether they realize what they lost. Stop putting your life on hold for a reunion that might never come or might not even be good for you if it does. What's next is you reclaiming your power. You deciding that you don't need them to see your worth for it to be real. You choosing yourself with the same fierce commitment you gave to someone who couldn't receive it properly. Let me talk about forgiveness, because this might be part of what needs to happen next for you to move forward. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you have to let them back in your life. It doesn't mean you're weak or that you're letting them off the hook. Forgiveness means you're releasing yourself from the prison of resentment. You're choosing peace over being right. You're deciding that carrying anger and bitterness hurts you more than it hurts them. So you're putting it down. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can forgive someone and still maintain firm boundaries. You can forgive someone while acknowledging that they're not safe for you and probably never will be. What I'm sensing is that forgiveness might be the final key to your freedom, not for their sake, but for yours, so you can stop carrying this weight, so you can stop giving them power over your emotional state, so you can fully step into what's next without dragging this pain into it. Drop a if you're ready to forgive for your own freedom, not for their comfort. As we move toward closing, I want to talk about what's actually next in practical terms. What's next is you continuing to build your life independent of this person. You pursuing your goals, your passions, your purpose, you investing in friendships and community. You creating experiences that remind you who you are outside of romantic connection. What's next is you getting clear on what you actually want in partnership, not based on chemistry or potential, but based on values, compatibility, and demonstrated character. You writing down your non-negotiables and actually honoring them when someone shows you they can't meet them. What's next is you being more discerning about who gets access to your heart, you moving slower in the beginning, you paying attention to actions over words, you trusting people gradually as they prove themselves trustworthy, not immediately because you want to believe in them. What's next is you building such a strong relationship with yourself that being alone feels better than being with someone who doesn't truly see and value you. You loving yourself so fiercely that you'd rather be single than settle. you knowing your worth so deeply that you can't be convinced otherwise by someone's inability to recognize it. And what's next might be a completely unexpected plot twist, a opportunity that opens because you're no longer energetically focused on the past. A person who enters your life when you're finally ready to receive them. A version of yourself that emerges once you've fully released who you had to be to survive that relationship. What I'm sensing most strongly is that what's next is entirely up to you. This person might have broken your heart, but you get to decide how the rest of the story goes. You get to decide if this defines you or refines